Hey everybody, it's Michelle LaVore and
Devin LaVore
coming at ya. And to start off, we just want to say welcome to all our new subscribers.
Yes.
It's so awesome to have you on here.
You're amazing.
And also, we just want to.
How can I do without you? I can't.
We just want to give a huge thank you for all of you who continue to support us. And
yes. Thank you so much, guys.
If you do want to support us, we do have a PayPal link below, and it does work. PayPal is working. We figured everything out. So in case you missed that.
I think that was a specific thing that, now some people might think it wasn't the Lord, it was just a PayPal glitch, whatever. I think on that particular day, it was significant that the PayPal was like not accepting it was just immediate transfers. Our PayPal has always worked.
Yeah.
It's just we can't just get the money and then transfer it like right then.
Yeah.
Just in that day, it was like, but anyway, that's another video.
Yeah, so it's all cleared up, so just to let you all know.
Working.
So let's start off. I had a dream last night, and then it actually tied in perfectly to a song that Devin woke up with this morning. And he put it on. It's by
it's Sarah Reeves.
Sarah Reeves. And basically
Right Where You Want Me.
Yeah, and there's a line in it that talks about if you're attacked by the enemy.
If I'm a target of the enemy.
Keep going.
I don't know how to do the second line.
I'm right where you want me to be.
Yeah, then I'm right where you want me to be, or something like that.
Anyway, and so I just wanted to share what I feel like God just revealed to me through it. And so to start off, I'll talk about the dream that I had. And it was kind of, it was a dream, but I felt like it was...
So there's weird elements to it, flying muffins or something. I don't know.
But basically, in this dream, I was on some sort of like island. It was a tropical kind of place, and there was a whole bunch of us there. And there was a married couple who I knew were kind of like supposed to be like, they were like the leaders. It was almost like we were on a contestant show. And I knew that this couple was...
What, like Survivor or something like that?
Kind of.
Couples Survivor.
But everybody wasn't couples. It was there was just a couple that was in charge. The rest of us were all just girls. Like, it was just all women. And so they were on the island, and then we were all there, and we were trying to find actually a place to sleep, and we were storing our shoes in some sort of cave. And then all of a sudden, like, all these girls come running out of the cave, and they're just like, ew, because they went to go get their shoes. Like and they had like spiders and cockroaches on them. And so then I'm like, well, let me go check my shoes. And they were just all gross too. And so I was like, I'm going to go put them in the water. But then there was just spiders that kept like spinning webs on everything and on my shoes. And I was like, what in the world? And then the dream changed, and we were off in like someplace with lots of ice and trying to get back to this island. And there were penguins and walruses. That's
the weird part.
Obsolete.
That's the flying muffin part.
Yeah. And then we got back to this island, and when we got back, I was talking with the wife, and she was telling me, oh, hey, we have a really great place to go. We have basically like this resort that they owned. And so she was like, hey, let's go. And so we get on this boat, we go, and I see it, and I'm like, wow, it looks amazing. Like, what do you do here? And she was telling me all this like great missions work that they were doing there, and worship and all this stuff. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, I think that, we could become friends and partner and do something here. This is awesome. And I was like, but actually right now my family and I were in the middle of transitioning to Nashville. And so like at some point I was like, hey, I got to go get them. And it was weird because actually I knew that the island that this resort place was at was like, it was almost like it was in the middle of a river. And if I just went up further, I would get to Nashville. And so it wasn't really like a far away place.
Nashville,
it was
up the river.
And
bookmark that.
Okay. and so I go back, and for whatever reason, I sent like a friend or somebody I knew back to them because I was kind of like, hey, go make a connection kind of thing. But I could see it in the dream from their perspective. And so they went back, and they met the wife, and they go, and it's like nothing is what it was. Nothing is what it was, what it seemed to be to begin with. And they go there, and it was just like, what is going on? And it basically kind of turned into like this bar scene. So instead of like the worship that was supposed to be there, it was completely different. And that's pretty much when I woke up. And I was reminded of the verse that said, you know, it's actually, I believe it's John 10 verse 1, I believe. I'll put it up there. But basically it's talking about like a wolf coming in sheep's clothing, and to just be aware of that.
That's actually Matthew.
Oh, Matthew.
Yeah, that's Matthew.
Okay.
Matthew 7. It's like beware. I think it's actually 7:15. Beware of the false prophets and false wolf in sheep's clothing. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's also in John, because I think
because you were looking up the 101.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I got
so, and it was specific to like the
So that was
sheep
basically
and
a needless interruption.
Pretty much.
Okay. Cool. I'm trying to do better here.
But basically, like, it was this sense, I woke up with a sense of like being aware that there are going to be
like a warning from the
Lord.
A
warning from the Lord that there are going to be people and things that are going to be saying, hey, look at what we have, but it's not really what's going on. And so then
this is who we are, this is what we do, and then you come in and you go, oh, see, I've actually been in situations like that, like years ago, when I was on tour with the band. You know, for 2 years I toured with a band, and we went to this one place. It was all about ministry and da-da-da. And then we walked through what they said that they were doing, and we were like, ugh.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the spirit of poverty and the spirit of poverty that was on it, and the spirit of just hopelessness and a couple other different things. It was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is like, and you want us to partner with you? And no.
Yeah.
No, and the spirit, that spirit of like, you know how you can get that desperation when you really, really are in a place where you're like, we need money, and we feel like God's put us in this position, but we don't know where it's going to come from, and so we're freaking out and scared, and that's coming out in the requests and all of that stuff, and it's just like, if God's put you in the place where you're going to be, and you need financial provision, He's just going to provide, and you need to rest in that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was just like, ugh. So it's like, I'm just saying, the dream that you've had, I've literally walked through those things a couple different times in my life, seeing like, no.
Yeah, and so I just kind of woke up with that, and it's actually been something really since we got the 101 that's just kind of come up kind of here and there, and then this morning it came up. So then when you put on that song about just that when I feel the attack of the enemy, I'm right where I should be. I was just kind of thinking about, like, wow, like that is something that I believe when it comes to the captivity church and the place of bondage that it's been in, that the enemy has come in and basically saying really the opposite of that. It's when you feel the attack of the enemy, you're not where you're supposed to be. And so many of us, we get attacked, or we don't understand why things are happening the way that they're happening, and we can retreat.
If this was the Lord, this wouldn't be so difficult. I wouldn't be facing so many obstacles. This can't be God.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. When it's really actually quite the opposite. And I think for me on this journey, it's really been interesting because I've felt that, or at least my experience has been in the past, was just like, oh, well, it should just be easy. You pray, God may or may not answer the prayer, but it's like, but that was like the extent of it. I never felt like direct attack or anything like that. It was just like, well, I'm praying, and okay, God said no, all right, good, and all right, He said yes, that's awesome, I'm just kind of walking, you know, and And so I feel like there's a lot of people in the church that's like that. You could look at their life, and their life says, wow, God, I've been praying for things, and God's just opened the doors. I just walk right through. And so when you come to a place where, for me, where now it's like, whoa, there is a lot. God's opened my eyes to the spiritual battle that's happening all the time. And it's like, whoa, this is really hard. Like, why is it so hard, Lord? Why can't I just pray and it gets answered? Like, what is going on? What am I doing wrong? And it's like, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just before you never saw it. And I think the truth is the enemy, when I think he allows, I had this picture this morning of just, it's like playing a chess game. And the enemy is like, he's willing to let things, like, for example, he's willing to allow prayer requests to be answered without any sort of issue. And because he's like, oh, I can give up that pawn, because he's thinking, ooh, because the bigger thing is I'm going to try and win this game by when they think that there should be no resistance whenever the Lord moves. And then when I just give them a little resistance, they're going to run the other way. Mm-hmm. They're going to back up and be like, whoa, okay, this isn't the Lord. Because all my experiences have been, oh, you just kind of walk. You just walk right through it. So I think that's just been something that has come out of the captivity church. Because I just have a lot of examples, even in my own life, where I feel like God he just answered. For example, when we met, for me personally, it was this impossible prayer I prayed. So when I was praying for a husband, it was just like, all right, I prayed. I brought it up a few times, but there honestly came this point where I was just like, all right, Lord, I'm just trusting you. And all right, here we go. And
little did she know on my end.
Yeah, all that he was really having to fight through.
It was intense. It was like Michael came to me after 21 days, or no, that wasn't Michael, but the angel came to me after 21 days and said, I was being resisted because the battle was intense to get to you.
Yeah.
I'm just like, dang, well, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. And so, and I guess there's been just other examples where it's like, all right, I've prayed and God answers. And it was just like, all right, if God doesn't answer, he doesn't answer.
Basically, you're saying, like, prayers have been easy.
Yeah.
God, I want this to... I think that's what your thing is you come from a culture that's just like, if it's not easy, it's not God.
Yeah, basically.
So, and it's like, if there's trouble, and this is just God telling you that. And it's like, nah, that's not the case.
Yeah, and so there was, and what else I was just kind of just thinking through is that for me growing up, yes, we knew about, you were told about the enemy. You were told about spiritual warfare, or at least you were just told, I learned the whole scripture in Ephesians and all of that. And it's like, all right, you've got your shield of faith and all of that. But when it came down to it, it was always that, where was the enemy? He was basically, he's in all the things that you shouldn't do. So, you shouldn't cheat, you shouldn't lie, 10 Commandments, we know all of that. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, okay, that is where the enemy is. He's just going to tempt you to go towards those things.
To come into his neighborhood.
But as long as you stay out of that neighborhood, you're good. You're fine. Like, the enemies shouldn't be coming and attacking you. Mm-hmm. And so for me growing up, the truth is there really was no battle. There was no perceived battle. There, and things that might happen, like if you were dealing with depression, if you were dealing with issues, well, they honestly didn't become a spiritual thing so much as that's just kind of part of life, so let's figure out how to handle it through medication, through just the man's way of dealing with it. It's like, some people, that's just what they deal.
There are mental issues, there are emotional issues, or there's psychological. They're all soul issues. There's something happening within the person.
Yeah.
There's never a connection to
oh, this is actually the enemy coming in.
See, it's very much a Western civilization way of doing things, and that's the attack of the enemy is to on the Western civilization is to make it all mental health issues. If a guy is going into a theater and blowing people away, that's not a mental health issue. That's the devil.
Yeah.
That's demons.
Yeah.
Now you go to anywhere in Africa and they'll be like, well, yes, of course.
Yeah.
What do you mean mental health? That's not mental health.
Yeah.
That's like that's demon.
Yeah.
They'll just say it straight up, and it's part of the culture of understanding because they know it's true. When I did my mission trips to Colombia, it was very common. It's like, oh, you're Christians? Please come to our village because this lady, she's got a demon. They would just straight up ask you that.
Yeah.
They'd be like, hey, we need to pray because this is some demonic stuff going on here and witchcraft stuff. You can literally see it. You could see demonic things on people. Yeah. If you had that kind of spiritual insight and you were open to it, you didn't need to be a prophet or some big time televangelist preacher. You just needed to know the Lord and have him reveal things to you.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of different kinds of people that were on our mission trips and different ages. Mostly young, like post high school, early college or something, But it's like God would just show you. I mean, you could just see it in the spirit. Just like, wow, there's some really nasty stuff going on here. It's demonic thing, dealing with like a demon-possessed girl. We did that on our mission trip.
Yeah.
But it was coming. Everyone was like, people weren't shocked by it.
Yeah.
People weren't trying to run from it.
Yeah.
Or pretend like it was, it's just really something else. No, it's the devil.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And so I feel like really what God has been doing just for his church is trying to open our eyes to the fact that this battle is real and it is in your homes. It's a battle that is you all the time raging against us.
Yeah.
When we say we have Jesus in our life, the enemy is coming after you. And so he doesn't want his people to be blind to it. And I was talking too about just, when you're in captivity or captivity mindset, it's like there are things that God has done that he is working through. Because I feel like during this time frame, there's been a lot of basically Christian books that are basically like Christian self-help books. And
well, can I?
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is like, let's give a little, let me see, context.
Yeah.
When she's saying when you're saying captivity church and captivity mindset, you're talking about like a 70-year. I did this video one time. It was 3 videos called Out of the Blue, and during that second video, God gave me this. I was getting this revelation from the Lord about, man, I feel like the church is really coming out of something right now. And then the Lord just told me 70 years. And it was like this 70 years of captivity. And it reminded me of the 70 years that Israel was in captivity to Babylon and all that. And he was like, that's exactly what's going on right now. You're like at the end of that 70 years.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, for like a month or so, God just started ministering to us about captivity church and he's going to be turning the power back on, and we were getting all kind of prophetic words and all that. So when she's saying captivity church, that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Just a sense of like you're in captivity, there's nothing you can do, and during that captivity of Israel, God was blessing him.
Yeah.
He was blessing some fields and he was blessing some harvest and he was blessing people and all that stuff, but it was not outside of the captivity.
Yeah.
So there were people who were 55 years old during that time, and all they knew was captivity to Babylon. That's all they knew.
Yeah.
They're 55 years old. That's all they've ever known was captivity.
Yeah.
So there's people that were born, raised, and died in that captivity, that 70 years of captivity. Well, what do you do with people who are, it's year 69, and they're only 17 years old. Well, most of their life is now going to be outside of that captivity.
Yeah.
But if they don't know anything but captivity, God has got to spend a lot of time retraining your heart and mind to understand the truth. Now, the confusing part with the captivity is like, well, that's not been my reality. You're trying to show me all this stuff that hasn't been my reality. This has been my reality.
Into the unknown.
So if you're 55 years old, what kind of mental transformation are you going to have?
Yeah.
To be like, well, I have to remind you that what you've been living is not my will.
Yeah.
What you've been living in this 70 years has really kind of been like a judgment thing you've been under. You've been in a prison. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm leading you out now into paradise, into truth. See, that's why a lot of times you get into certain church structures or cultures, and they're really against prosperity because that's what their cell block culture has taught them. That God just doesn't do that anymore. Look around, can't you see? And here, let me give you scriptures to give you to back up my circumstantial theology. And it's just like it's just not true. And you know what I mean? So it creates a lot of divisions and denominations and all that stuff throughout the past 70 plus years, I think. But it's been going on for more than that. But But that's what you're talking about when you do the 70 years.
Yeah. And I just was seeing it as like, and I'm not against books or anything like that, because I really feel like God had that was how he could help people in that. But unfortunately, I think in the captivity, people started relying on certain people, instead of going to God and having him be their source for everything, it became, oh, well, I read the latest this person's book, and I read it and I feel good about myself, and
you haven't changed after 27 books.
Yeah.
But hey, at least you read it, and now your head's full of more information.
More information. I feel like there's just so much information that people have, and just and it's like what God's been doing for me personally is just really showing me that he is the number one source. He's been doing this for probably 4 or 5 years now, and instead of going to a book or something like that to hopefully receive what I want to receive, or
going to someone you respect for wise counsel.
Yeah. And it's like God, he's like, I am the wise counsel.
A lot of times that can be you're just going to a living book.
Yeah,
that's what you're doing.
And so, but I think though it's like, but God is so good because he is going to work the best that he can with what he's got to work with. Mm-hmm. It's like if people are willing to receive something from him through somebody else, okay, then that's how I'm going to move right now. Mm-hmm. Is it like the most optimal or...
Yeah, optimal. It's a good way of saying it.
Way that he wants to work in somebody.
The highest and best.
Yeah, it's like, well, no, he prefers to have it one-on-one. You're relating directly to God and hearing from God and allowing him to work and move. Which is why he never wanted kings to begin with. Exactly. But it's like, all right, well, if this is what you're crying out for, what the people are saying, then okay, I'm going to move that way, because God is a good God, and he's like, I am always moving. I am always speaking to my people. I am always on your side. I am always trying to get you further along and conform you into the image of Christ. So if this is how I'm going to have to do it right now, then yes, okay, I will do that. But I just feel like God is like, I want to take this church body to a different level. I want them to open up their eyes and realize the battlefield that's around them, and to recognize the enemy when he's basically has been telling all these lies that says, oh, the enemy isn't in the church. The enemy only touches you when you go into those things that the enemy, is in. And it's like, no, it is a complete lie. And it just reminded me again this morning of the dream that Devin had back in September last year, almost a year ago.
That was a nasty one.
And basically, It's like, here's this church area, this church. So basically, in this dream,
Do you want me to tell it?
Yeah, why don't you tell it?
I can just tell it. I'll give you the short version, because I think that video is like 52 minutes long.
Yeah.
And the dream is somewhere in there. But basically, me and the family, we were going to the zoo. It's like, yes, it's going to be so fun. Let's go to the zoo. We went to the zoo, and it turned into this place where you're walking down these halls, and they're really pale gray halls. And we get to this one place, and we realize later on, like, oh my gosh, this isn't a zoo, this is a prison.
Yeah.
We're going to have this fun time, but we're in a prison, and we go to this area that has snakes. And as I'm going to the area, I see that it's a huge, it is a huge area with this great big glass panels. You can see the snakes in there. But I knew, like something was, I went up first, and something bad happened. So I was like, I told Michelle, like, no, stay there. And she knew right what I was communicating with my eyes, and she was like, she protected the kids, and then she took off just like I wanted her to. But what had happened was, there was this little, he was probably like barely 2 years old. I'm standing there looking at these snakes. These kind of snakes don't actually exist in real life.
Yeah.
They were huge. But there was this one that was dead. He was just laying there on his side with his mouth just kind of cocked open a little bit. And I'm standing there I was kind of fascinated by the dead snake, but I was actually fascinated by the size of these snakes. And they were in this really murky, dark area with hardly any light. And I was like, why do they have the setup like that? Because I'm a snake guy. I'm like, I wouldn't set it up like this. And so out of the corner of my eye, I see this little 2-year-old boy that he's actually walking on this little wooden plank right in front of the glass here. He's just walking along. I'm like,
he's inside.
Oh my God, he's inside the tank, walking on this little platform that I'm just like, what in the world? And it was almost like I was the only one who saw it.
Yeah.
I was like, and everyone else was just doing their normal thing, like, oh, look at the snakes. Oh, cool. And I'm like I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a 2-year-old in there. And the 2-year-old, freakiest dream I've ever had. It definitely has the heavyweight title for scariest dream. But this little kid, he's just like coming on in, all being a little kid, and he lays down on the wooden platform and just does like this right in front of the dead snake. And the dead snake, like that, bam, he just pops on that kid and wraps him up and just starts eating him. Yeah. And it was just like, and everyone at that point, everyone's like, oh my God, and they're freaking out, right? And I knew the parents were right behind me, and the parents were like, the dad was like, he was just standing up against the wall, like he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
He had like this hard worker, like he worked construction or something, and he was just his mentality of what a man was I work, I bring home the bacon, that's what I do. I don't know how to handle this, but I feel really bad, and I'm just like, But then there's this other lady standing next to him who was the wife. She's freaking out, yelling at him, going, oh my God.
Yeah.
She looked like Peg Bundy from Married with Children, with all the clothes and the hair and everything. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then down the hall was like the older brother. Mm-hmm. He was like freaking out because he was trying to do something. And then I realized the boy is going into this door. There's this door that leads there was like a door that leads into the area where the snakes were, but there was a door that was connected to where the snakes were. Yeah, so there was a door inside, but then there was a door in the hallway that led to that other door.
Yeah.
And he was just freaking out, and he was like, oh, and he was going, and I don't know if I said something to him or I wanted to or whatever, but I knew he was just like, I got to go do something. I got to go save my little brother. And because he was freaking out.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I just sensed in the spirit of the dream that he was the most mature person in the family. Mm-hmm. This 15-year-old boy. He was the leader of the family. Mm-hmm. He just didn't have the authority.
Yeah.
And he was just going to go in, and I was like thinking, no, don't do that. And then the dream went on to other things. Yeah. But it's like, here's this snake you thought was dead. It just, as soon as that boy did like this, the dead snake was like, bam! He just started eating him. And the boy, it was really terrifying because it was really graphic.
Yeah.
It's the dream spared no expense.
Yeah.
And because that little boy's body just went completely limp and everything, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it was crazy. So that's the gist of that video.
Yeah, and but what was just kind of shocking too was when we were discussing the dream, and really felt like God was saying that it really was an example of the church, where there's basically this prison that the church is living in, and they don't know it, but the enemy is right there inside those church walls, and there is a door that is open, and people are watching their kids and their lives get destroyed, but they don't know what to do about it. And
because they're so wrapped up in their own lives. The husband's so wrapped up in who he is. The wife is so wrapped up in what she is. And a little boy is the leader of the family. And you think the enemy is just isolated to this back area. Because that's what it was. It was like this little back area that hardly anybody went to. You think that's where the enemy is. When the truth of the matter is, he's the warden of the whole prison.
Yeah.
And he's got that little back area to entertain your idea that that's just exactly where he belongs. And that's where he is. And that's where... It's like, no. He's in charge of the whole thing.
Yeah.
He's governing the whole thing. I mean, really, God is over everything, right? Mm-hmm. Particularly even in times of judgment, God's sitting there watching.
Yeah, he knows what's going on.
But it's like, it's not his will that the church should resemble a prison.
No.
And you got all these different cell blocks, a la denominations, saying, no, this is right, no, that's right, no, this is right, no, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, the enemy, he's over there. As long as you don't go to that wing, you're going to be fine. As you're in your prison cell.
Yeah.
Dealing with suicide and depression and anxiety, and it's got you chained, and it's leading you wherever it wants you to go.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I mean, that's just really what I feel like God was just sharing with me this morning, was just, again, this opening of the eyes. It's like he really wants his people to see the truth, to see where really what we've come from. And if anything, that's kind of what I was seeing this morning. It's like, wow, like, look where God honestly has shown and brought me, as far as just like, okay, this is reality. Reality is the enemy is going to come against us, and that he is, it's like, but what's so great is that God has overcome it all.
Right.
He is the great overcomer through Jesus. And so we have authority over what the enemy's doing.
But it's like what you were saying, I thought something significant, because we talked about this before we made the video, but I thought something significant that you said was like, that's why I've been struggling so much throughout this whole time in Nashville, because it's like, you know that this is the Lord.
Yes.
You know it. There's no debate. Even the door that opened up for us on June 14th and how that's worked. Yeah, it's like know it's the Lord. But it's like, why is it happening the way it's happening? Because there's a part of me that says this can't be God. But then there's another part that's like, you just know. And there's no questioning it. You know what I'm saying? It's like...
Yeah.
It's like you've driven in the Ferrari for the last 14 days. You can't say, I don't know, have I really driven in the Ferrari? No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's real, but it's like, well, why are things in our life going this way? If God sent us to Nashville and now here comes the promise and all, it's been like almost 8 months now.
Yeah.
And it's like, this doesn't seem like the Lord, but it is. So there's a confusion, and you're thinking that's like, it was an assault against your mental paradigm of how God moves and what he does. And this has never been the way it's been. I don't know how many times you've said that. This was never been that way. Yeah. And you'd always compare your, people from your past and how their lives were going.
And even just how God had worked in my life before. It's like, well, this should be a clear sign that it isn't the Lord, because he's not doing... It's not happening right now. It's not going, and it's like, well, God has to show, he has to wake us up to the reality of the life that we live in, and it's that coming out of captivity. You could say when you're in captivity, well, Lord, you never did that. I remember back in captivity, it was this way.
Right.
But then God's like...
Back in the wilderness, it was just manna every day.
Yeah.
And what's this?
Yeah. And so I just... we didn't have to, and honestly, the Israelites, they could have said that. When they took the promised land, they had to fight for it.
Yep.
There was a battle that they were facing because they were driving out the inhabitants. Mm-hmm. And it's like when we are coming and we are driving out the enemy and taking ground for the Lord, there is a battle. And I think that too much of it was like, well, Lord, shouldn't we just be given this? Like, why isn't things just being handed to us? And it's like,
we want red carpet treatment for every prayer request.
Yeah.
And it's like, the truth of the matter is, it's like, you know, and you have people say, well, you just need to stay biblical. You just need to stay biblical. Okay, Joseph's story was biblical. Hello. That didn't just happen. And it was grievous and painful. David's story was biblical. Abraham's story was biblical. Noah's story was biblical. Daniel's story was biblical. Jesus' life was biblical.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's the Messiah, you ain't gonna get better.
Yeah. And
look at the resistance and the intensity to the degree where they killed him. The religious leaders. Man, I tell you what, I'm just gonna say this. There's some people that keep commenting on our channel that are of that spirit. Mm-hmm. They're of that religious spirit that are saying, hey, you guys should be this way, and you should be that way, and you should be this way, and you should be that way, because it's the exact same thing they did to Jesus. Mm-hmm. The religious leaders were like, Jesus, no, you should be this way. Why are your disciples doing this? Why are you doing that on the Sabbath? Why are you... It's like, you really have missed the spirit.
Yeah.
You've missed the day of visitation. You've missed it. Why? Because all you know is Pharisaical, Sadducees, captivity, Israelite, religious leader mindset. That's all you know. And not only that, the problem is you're unwilling to change it. Like Joseph of Arimathea, or no, not Joseph. Was he a Pharisee? No, he's just a rich guy.
Yeah.
Who is it? Nicodemus. That's what it is. Yeah. Nicodemus and Pharisees like him, they were like, listen, I'm not so attached to this Pharisee prestige that I can't recognize that you're amazing.
Yeah.
Something's going on in your life that's like, I have to steal away from my little culture so they don't see me. Yeah. And I'm going to come to you in secret and say, Jesus, you are something special.
Yeah.
You're more than a prophet. You have to be the Messiah. And, you know, it's like, but don't tell them I was here. You know what I mean? It's like you can't. You're gonna face. See, and that's another thing. One of the things that the Lord was sharing with me last night is like, Devin, you're just gonna face that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to face the pressure. How do you handle the pressure? How are you going to handle the pressure? Are you going to rise up and react and try to correct them too? You've fallen into the trap. It's like, don't. It's like, even when Jesus would answer the Pharisees, he would answer by the Spirit's leading. If the Spirit's not leading you, you can't answer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's just, there's so many examples like that where God's like, there's going to, like what you're saying, you know, there's going to be people advertising themselves as this great Christian thing that they're doing. Mm-hmm. Even the really like rich kind of ministries can be dead inside.
Yeah.
They can advertise all this cool. My friend was telling me before that he was like, he had a chance to be exposed to this really, really well-known ministry, and he was shocked at how things really went on behind the scenes, and people were arguing over money and the offering that was made and what we're going to do with it, and no, I should get this money because of the... And he was shocked.
Yeah.
He was like, no one would have ever known that that's what was going on behind the scenes. And I was like, I'm not shocked, because you're dealing with people.
Yeah.
People who just, and it's just like, you're gonna have to deal with that. And that, I mean, I'm just saying that ties into what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just, the enemy is not isolated to this little corner. Mm-mm. You know, he wants authority in your life.
Yeah.
He wants influence in your life. And if there's any door open that you can go through and he can grab you, he's gonna do that.
Yeah, and
even if he has to play dead like he's not there.
Well, and
like he's harmless.
And I think it kind of also, this is something that God was kind of just sharing with me, was like when Jesus was tempted in the desert, it was the enemy was coming directly to Jesus and trying to get him personally to basically deny God.
Yeah.
And it was in the desert place. And then it said after he had been tested, Jesus had been tested, the enemy left for a more opportune time. And
it says he stood back.
Yeah.
If you read some of the some of the commentary
it's kind
that
of
really got into the wording and stuff, said he just stood back and waited.
And then it's like, when you see the enemy coming back at Jesus, how does he come back? Is he coming directly to him like he did in the desert?
Nope.
No, he's coming through people. And I really feel like God is saying, like, hey, this time
that is a video right there.
Yeah. This time in the wilderness, the enemy has been coming directly to us.
Mm-hmm.
He has been directly, like, assaulting the way that you think about God. He's been trying to get you to put down your promise. He's been trying to get you to deny God, to all of that. But I believe that it's going to be one of those moments where, okay, he's going to take a step back, but when he comes back, he's going to come back through people. And that's why I think God is saying, like, hey, here's this warning. Like, there are going to be sheep's and wolves' clothing. There are going to be people that are going to come at you bringing the persecution. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to be, because I think the enemy, he knew with Jesus, well, I'm not going to get Jesus, but maybe I can use people and situations to do the very thing that I was hoping that Jesus would do.
See, that is why, what is that saying? Not everything that glitters is gold. Mm-hmm. Not every opportunity is going to be from the Lord.
Yeah.
Not every connection is going to be from the Lord. It's just not.
And it's like, well, how do you do it? How do you navigate these waters?
You got to know the Lord.
You got to know the Lord.
You have to know the Spirit.
Again, like yesterday, I think that's why God is like, I so just want intimacy with my people. Mm-hmm. I want them to know me. Just like Jesus knew the Lord, and he knew what God was doing and where he was leading him. He walked in peace, even when the Pharisees were persecuting him. Even when he was going to the cross, he had the peace of God on him, mm-hmm. which is just like amazing.
He was prophesying on his way to the cross.
Yeah.
It was just like, wow.
And so I just think that that's really what God is saying. He's like, hey, I need you to be aware, people, my people, that, okay, the enemy has been coming after you individually, but once this promise is fulfilled, I think that there is going to be such a strength mm-hmm. and mm-hmm. and a healing within us that if the enemy comes, we're going to be like, bing, go away. I know this. I know this.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be more outside coming in towards us.
Yep.
That the people having persecution from outside mm-hmm. rather than necessarily the enemy coming directly to us like he did with Jesus in the desert.
Yeah, because I just felt like the Lord was like, for some people who will watch this video, apparently, there's that's already happening to them. Mm-hmm. They're already getting hit from other sources because the enemy already knows that he can't get to them.
Yeah.
He already knows, and so he's already using other people. You're already experiencing what Michelle's talking about. So.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so I think that's it for you and me.
Yeah. But yeah, so we just hope that you guys are encouraged and that you can just take this as just a word of just warning and just even encouragement and just to be aware. I really feel like it's like God he's like, I want to open people's eyes, because when we can see clearly, then it's like, oh, we can, you can be ready for what's coming. And it's like, just, again, listen to the Spirit. And so we just so appreciate all of you. And that's really what we have for you today.
You had no idea that Annalise has been standing here for the last 5 minutes. There's her hand.
So
she just needed a little comfort.
Yeah.
A little comfortus. Yep. So we love you guys.
Yeah, and until next time.
And continue to pursue the Lord, man.
Yes.
And
until next time,
yep.
We'll see you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.